Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who likes animal-shaped hedges, Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. That is the thing I like. That is a defining characteristic of my life. I've said it once. I've said it 1,000 times.
My across-the-street neighbors have animal-shaped hedges in their yard.
That's cool.
Fun fact. They look great. They're not like, macabre or anything. They're just, there's like a little poodle in the back or whatever. But they're fun. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I do not have animal-shaped hedges.
Well, that's too bad. I don't either.
Well, what good are we then, Frank?
I don't know.
Truly.
Why are we even here?
I don't know. Podcast over.
I think so. Yeah, that's it. It's over.
Can you imagine if this was actually the last episode and then we just came on and pretended that we were going to do something and then we were like, actually, this is the end.
Fake out.
Yeah, we just clicked off and that was that.
Biggest middle finger to such a nice audience. Why would we do it to such a nice audience?
It is a loyal audience, no less.
It is. Very much so. Very much
Indeed.
So.
Well, Frank, what beer are you drinking this evening?
Well, my friend, I have a Shipyard Monkey Fist IPA. I think it's a seasonal because I've had it in the past, but only it seems like it happens, sort of heading into the summer. So I think it's a summer seasonal, and boy, do I enjoy it. I love Shipyard. They do a good job up there in Maine.
They do an excellent job, don't they, Frank?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do.
Don't they? Oh,
Don't you do?
Oh, oy-de-doy-de-doy. Oh, what you going to do? Well,
wow. All right, we're going there.
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired.
What are you on about?
I don't know. I'm sleepy, Frank. I'm drinking a good old fashioned Samuel Adams Porch Rocker.
Yes, I saw my first Porch Rocker this weekend. I got so excited. New branding this year
for Porch Rocker. Do.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the new branding? Tell me about it.
I like it. It's very different. They rebranded all their beers, all their seasonals, like the Summer Ale. Sam Adams Summer Ale also has a totally new look. It's very bright and colorful. It's very on trend. It's something that a lot of
Sam Summer was bright before, though.
Yes, but this is much more in your face.
Oh, sure. Well, that's how I like my beer. In my face.
Yeah,
no,
that's where it belongs.
That's where it belongs, in my face, depending on what I'm saying. Well, it depends on this. So, Frank, we have not done this segment in a particularly long time, but I think it's time for a good old-fashioned hit me with your best shot.
Hit me with your best shot. Why don't you hit me with your best shot?
And my best shot for you this fine day to which we are recording, I want to talk about the splendific film Edward Scissorhands, directed by Tim Burton. Frank, have you seen Edward Scissorhands before?
I saw Edward Scissorhands once.
When?
10
Did I make
years
you watch
ago.
it?
What? Yes, you may watch it. 10 years
Tell
ago.
me about that, because I don't remember. I don't remember that at all. So tell me about it.
Yep, it was one of the early times we had hung out, and it was, I think, the first time that I hung out with you in Massachusetts. As a matter of fact.
Oh, okay, all right. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so we stayed over at your house, and in the morning. We had some time to kill before we were going to go do whatever we were going to do, probably catch a train or something. So we
did like to catch trains back in the day.
We did catch trains back in the day. Yeah, I did anyway. So yeah, I think that we had some time that morning, so we leafed through your giant DVD collection and picked out Edward Scissorhands because I hadn't seen it. And so yeah, we watched it that one time. It was a long time ago. It was 10-ish years ago. So I'm due for a refresher here.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you say this was 10 years ago because we've been friends now for, 13 of those 10 years, I would say?
Yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere along those lines. And so if you came to my house now and was like, oh, we have time to kill, let's throw on a movie, I don't think I would ever in a million years be like, here's Edward Scissorhands. Knowing you now as I do, I don't think I would ever pull out most Tim Burton films to be like, Frank, you gotta see this. It's your
quick
taste.
Light and airy watch. Let's just breeze right through this.
What was I thinking?
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
There were politics in the room. They were just like, it's like a group of friends trying to decide what to watch, and everybody, when you're in college or thereabouts, it's just sort of like, yeah, of course, everyone's like, no, let's watch this, and somehow we land on Edward Scissorhands. I don't know how, but one of the reasons was because I hadn't seen it. Somebody was like, oh, well, then we have to watch it.
I don't remember that at all. But anyway, so here's the deal. I know Edward Scissorhands is not your particular type of film. However, I am going to reframe the Edward Scissorhands in a way that I think I can make it your type of film.
I trust you can do this. Yes, I'm very here for this
because I would honestly never be like, here's this movie about a weird guy with hands that are actually scissors, and stuff happens to him, and it's kind of macabre. And you love things that are macabre, don't you, Frank? So this is clearly the movie for you.
Yep, that sounds like my cup of tea. Let's hear it.
Yeah, all right. So you've seen the film before, but I'll refresh your brain. So
please.
It is about a man named Edward, who is not really a man. He is an automaton, which is a very fun word for way of saying robot. And there's this inventor who, has created all the fun things that he could ever hope to create, like a cookie making machine and things like that. And so he kind of sees, the heart-shaped cookie, and he was like, I can create a person to love, like Pinocchio,
right?
In Geppetto. And so Edward is, for one reason or another, kind of left. I'll try to be as spoiler-free as possible. Kind of left up there in this really macabre castle overlooking this very plain Jane Americana town in Florida. By plain Jane, I mean bright and colorful, but it's very cookie cutter in its own way. So it's oddly ironic, one would say, that the mechanic or the creator at the top of the mountain creates a cookie machine out of it makes cookie cutter shapes out of those, and then there's a cookie cutter town right below. You see, there's a lot of parallelism here, Frank.
I see that.
It's gonna, yep. So anyway, so the movie is about Edward, like, kind of joining this family and being in this town, and then the town loves him and then rejects him and loves him again and rejects him, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And so here I'm gonna reframe this in two ways, and we'll see how this goes. So one, Frank, this is the story of Frankenstein, and I know you love science fiction, and Frankenstein being one of the first works of science fiction ever, so much so that the word scientist wasn't even a thing when Frankenstein was written. Scientists were called natural philosophers. So when we talk about Dr. Frankenstein, we don't even refer to him as a scientist in the story, which is insane when you really think about it.
That is pretty crazy. Wow.
Yep. So So if you look at the story of Edward Scissorhands, not as a fairy tale as it's originally presented, it's very Beauty and the Beast in its own way. There's a misunderstood person in a castle, and somebody goes knocking on the door, but instead of like Belle going to live in the castle, Maurice just takes the Beast home to live with them, which is actually a movie I'd like to see. Can you imagine? Like, I'd like to see that Beauty and the Beast where Maurice is like, "Hello, I've lost my horse," and the Beast is like, "I'm the prince of this castle," and Maurice is like, "Oh, come back with me," and Beast is just like, "Okay," and then he lives in the quiet town, like the quiet village,
he's
with
just like their pet,
right? With the lumber making machine and things like that. I would love to see that
he just
movie.
Becomes a peasant and just like lives out the rest of his days happy.
I would love that he just learns how to work on the farm and use his hands and sings songs with the village folk, but then they run him out of town with their pitchforks, so it basically ends the same way, except that instead of the setting being a castle, it's just the village.
This is the Beauty and the Beast fan fiction I didn't know I needed.
I didn't know I needed it either. This just came into my brain right now. This hit me with your best shot was worth it for this side segment.
Wow.
It's worth it. So that was amazing. I can't believe we got to workshop more ideas, Frank.
We really do.
Not that these
We're pretty
ideas
good at it.
Not these ideas go anywhere, but somebody wants to give us about $250 million.
Yeah.
I would love,
yeah.
Would love to turn
Call
these things
us.
into a reality. Mm-hmm. Or email us, beerwithgeeks@gmail.com.
Make it happen.
So, or mail at thoughtbubble.audio.com. Either one.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to be professional about it. So anyway, Edward Scissorhand is framed in this, fairy tale type of way. Why is it snowing in Florida? Because fairy tale. Shut up.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. Where do they get the ice from? Why can he talk and have feelings and feels pain? He's a robot. It doesn't matter. Shut up. In some ways, sometimes a lot of science fiction also works that way. Why is there sound in space? Who cares? Shut up. I think I want a podcast where people just ask questions about different properties and I go, "Who cares? Shut up." We'll call it "Who cares? Shut up."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good show right there. Who cares?
Yeah.
Shut up. A little on the nose. Yeah. Yeah.
A little on the nose.
But yeah.
So if you look at it from the scientific point of view, you have this scientist who is trying to create life. He's an old man, and he is potentially seeking immortality. He's eaten too many cookies in his life, and his cholesterol is really high, and his
Sure.
his sugar's through the roof, and so
man,
because he's had too many cookies, so he's searching for immortality. So he creates this automaton, which is a great word, as I said before, to prove that life can be created, but he dies before his science experiment can be completed, and so the science experiment is left to its own devices and has to learn the real meaning of being human. What is it? What is it to err human and to have those qualities if you are not actually a person? And so, what better way to learn about that than in a '60s? Like a '60s small town, Florida, because that is in essence like Americana, right? You have this, the nuclear family and the barbecues and the baseball on the radio, and Alan Alda being like, "Turn it up," "Hey Ed, I'm going to give you this. I'm gonna give you this whiskey with a straw in it." Actually, really, even without this side thing, you watch it for Alan Alda because he is just a gem of a human being.
That's true.
Well, just watch the Alan Alda scenes on YouTube for all I care, because there's the first dinner sequence where Edward is trying to eat with the family, and he is just struggling to pick up the food, and Alan Alda's like, "So it must have been pretty lonely up there, Ed." It's just so good. It's so good.
Oh my goodness.
He's a comedic genius. So you could look at Edward Scissorhands that way. What does it? And the fairy tale perspective can also lend itself to that. What does it mean to be human when you're not actually human? But if you look at it from a filmmaker autobiography standpoint, which is how I usually watch Edward Scissorhands, I really enjoy it because Tim Burton grew up in Burbank, California, right? And you know, Burbank is in the 60s, mind you. So extremely white, cookie cutter. Everyone went off and did their job at 8:30 and came back at 5:30, and you know, and it just moved in this life. And then you have this weird kid in the back of the room who's like, I like to draw, or I like Star Wars, or you know, and anything like that. Just like slightly off the scope of everybody else. And so Tim Burton creates this movie where you can look at this main character and be like, okay, I get it. That's me. I just don't exactly fit in with everybody else. And as much as people try to be like, hey, it's okay. Why don't you come in? Here's the family. Have some food. You have a special talent. Use your special talent to help the community. All of those things take place as a really supportive community at first. But then you do one wrong thing, or Edward does one wrong thing, allegedly, and it just the crowd is fickle. It turns on him, not dissimilar to Beauty and the Beast.
Wow. That's really beautiful, though, that idea of, you know, people identifying with Edward because it's like that's me in some way, right? It's funny because you were talking about Alan Alda earlier, or Alan Arkin rather.
Alan Arkin, not Alan Alda, who's also great, but
who's
also
Alan.
Alan.
But Alan Arkin. I identify with him.
You identify with it. You identify.
Just old and crotchety.
Well, actually, there are some. Do you find that as you get older, this is a slight aside, but as you find you get older and you watch films with dads as not even the main character, but you're just like, my God, that is me. Why am I a dad?
100%. 100%. More than I am comfortable admitting, honestly. But yes, yes, totally. That happens a lot more than I'm comfortable with.
I think you and I have talked about this before, maybe not on the podcast, but my fiance and I are watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime, and I empathize so much with the dad, Tony Shalhoub,
oh my goodness,
on that show, because there's just this one scene in the first season where there's a bunch of boxes in front of his door to his study, which as I am sitting in my own study right now, and he can't get out, and he's like, "So move the boxes," and they're like, "I want to come out," and so they move the boxes, and he doesn't come out, and they're like, "Are you coming out?" And he's like, "No, I didn't want to come out. I just wanted the option of leaving," and I'm like, "That's me." Yes. What is this doing? Why is this impediment in my way? Move it. All right, thank you. I'm going back to what I was doing before. That actually, it was just bothering me in my brain. It wasn't actually bothering me physically. It didn't actually block anything. Or when he tries to turn the TV off on his grandson because he watches TV at that time, and the kid starts crying, and he's like, "Only tonight."
That's right.
This is only that's me.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I'm the dad that way.
I feel that.
I'm starting to relate to Homer Simpson more and more and more every day of my existence, you know. But you know, that's
you're quoting him a lot more too.
He's just a very relatable person. That's why The Simpsons endures, because you can go anywhere in the world, and somebody's going to be like, Homer Simpson's a little bit my dad, or he's a little bit me, and that's it, because he's just this conglomeration of what makes a dad in some ways. So in some ways. So anyway, going back to Edward Scissorhands, that's why Tim Burton. Some of Tim Burton's best films are his more personal films, and Edward Scissorhands being one of his first ones. You know, you have Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, and then Edward Scissorhands. So it's only his fourth film, and he had made it big by this point. You know, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a success. Beetlejuice more so. Batman was, you know, through the roof. You know, an incredible success from Tim Burton and Warner Brothers. And so basically, do whatever you want. Here's money. And so he makes this film about himself, basically. You know, there's a real beauty to Edward wanting to be close to people, you know, wanting to be in contact, wanting to be human in a community, but his hands are weapons. You know, he can't touch himself or other people without hurting them. You know, there's a genuine, beautiful metaphor in not being able. It's like almost like Rogue from the X-Men. You know, like I want to be near you, but I can't because I'm dangerous or I'm just too different. We just are not compatible, and so I have to leave.
Much like Beauty and the Beast.
Much like Beauty and the Beast, right? You know, there is a love story aspect, as you might remember, to Edward Scissorhands. So it is very Beauty and the Beast that way. You know, but even the way that Tim Burton does costumes in the movie, or part of the plot points is that the mom who takes him, Peggy, the mom who takes Edward in, is a makeup saleswoman, and so this, what does makeup do but cover what's already there, right? So we're gonna cover up what you are to turn you into something else, but ultimately you're still the same thing underneath. And when they even give Edward clothes, if you look at images of Edward online, he's got a full black leather bodysuit that's his real body, but they give him a pair of pants and suspenders and a white shirt. Here now you fit in because you're wearing the uniform of the suburbs. Right. But as the film progresses, because Edward's hands are scissors, he slowly starts to come apart. He starts to unravel. So he starts buttoned up. He starts himself, becomes buttoned up, and as the film goes on, the clothes start to disintegrate, and he eventually emerges kind of as himself all over again. There's a really nice through line right through the film, and Tim Burton doesn't get enough credit for he's like, it's all visual, his stories are nothing, and that movie is a beautiful story, so I don't. I never understood that criticism. Some movies I can understand, but every director has crummy stories sometimes.
No, it happens.
So it happens. You can't be a winner every time. Right? Say some things now, because my cat is about to attack me and I need to move him.
I mean, even if every story can't be a winner, this is not one that I would consider among it's even to be at the bottom of the not the bottom, but to be not one of the all-time greatest stories of all time. It's still a very revered Tim Burton movie.
Agreed. It's a timeless story. So, we were making jokes about Beauty and the Beast this whole time, or Pinocchio, or something like that.
But it's a storybook. It's a storybook type of, it comes from all of those same roots.
Mm-hmm. And when a film is, in some ways, not interested in explaining how things work, it becomes a little bit more timeless, because it's not getting bogged down in current explanations that might become outdated one day.
That's right.
Think of Back to the Future. Why does the car go back to the future? Can the car go back and forth? Because it can. Because because science. Shut up.
Yeah. Shut up. There it is.
Shut up. Because the flux capacitor. What's that? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Why can Edward feel pain? Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is teaching you about emotive truth, about emotional truth, as opposed to scientific truth or statistical truth. And that's what really films are about. Even documentaries are really about, emotional truth, because a documentary, no matter who it is or what style it is biased. It's the documentary, and
there's always a point of view.
There's always a point of view, right? And so, this is also slightly off topic, but there are two ways to look at something, right? There's either an objective way to look at something or a subjective way to look at something, right? And so, but if you're creating a film about human characters, or characters that have human characteristics, it is a subjective point of view, because you have subjective relationship with people. You never have objective relationship with people, unless you talk about back in the Middle Ages, that's an objective point of view.
Yes,
because they're not real people in your brain. And so, but a one-on-one relationship is always subjective, so there's always a bias, whether it's good or bad. And so that's where the emotional truth comes from. What does it make you feel, and is that feeling true? And did the film manipulate you to get you to feel that way, or did you get there on your own?
Right.
Much like this conversation, Frank. Did I trick you into feeling
Honestly,
something?
Yes. You have described this as a film that I would very much like to see. And honestly, as you point these things out, I'm remembering images and moments from that fateful day, 10 years ago. And I think I see a lot of that in retrospect, and would like to watch it again to really more fully experience that.
It's funny because the macabre part is obviously that's not your cup of tea, but it's so minimal in the film, because the whole point is that he's a fish out of water. Stories you love, fish out of water.
Do you love those?
You do love fish out of water stories. and it's why he loved the Thor film so much, because he's always a fish out of water.
Yeah. Another.
I need a horse. We don't sell horses. So right. We have
classic
dogs and birds and stuff. Well, give me one of those big enough to ride. The first Thor film does not get enough credit for the amount of comedy in that film.
I know, man. I know.
Yeah, it's good fun. They're all good fun.
Really is.
Except Iron Man 3. I'm not getting into it. I brought it up, but we're not getting into it.
Hey, what do you hate more, Iron Man 3 or Spider-Man 3?
I think I hate Iron Man 3 more, honestly.
Whoa! Okay, that's a topic for another day. I can't wait to get there.
What third parts of the trilogies do we hate more than Iron Man 3?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pit those up against each other in a soccer field.
Yeah, I honestly,
you tell me why you hate them.
I hate both, but I have my hatred toward Iron Man 3 is stronger for particular reasons, which we will not get to.
No, we will not
today, but that's okay. We don't need to get to them today.
It's fine.
So, Frank, do you have any? I mean, you're a busy man, but do you think that you'd ever really revisit Edward Scissorhands?
Yes, I do think I would. Now, is this something I'm going to go watch right after we're done recording? No, not right this second.
It's because you got to edit this podcast, Frank.
I do. That is actually the truth. But I do feel like yes, when the next time that I do have like a movie night to myself, which happens occasionally, or the next time that I am in a group setting where we're trying to decide on a movie to watch, I think that's one that I might throw in the ring. That's
pretty good. All right, then I did my job here. Mm-hmm, job well done, me. Claps on the back.
Good job.
Thanks. You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com, Twitter, Gmail, and Facebook. You can check us out on all places that podcasts can be found and explored and loved, such as Spotify and iTunes and Google Play. And you can also head over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio to throw some money our way. If you don't have $250 million lying around, you're more than will donate as little as $1 a month to keep the podcast going, the lights on, all such things like that. Got to host those podcasts somewhere, and that costs us the money. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you can also check out all other Thought Bubble audio shows at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. Frank, I started a new podcast. It's called the Read Up Podcast. It's all about books and stuff. I talk about books intellectually and stuff. Now, Frank, this was a blast. I'll check up on to see if you have done any of the Hit Me With Your Best Shots over the time, over these few years. I don't remember what they are. The only one I actually remember you watching is Alien.
That's
and
right.
You liked it.
I did.
Because it also has automatons, or whatever they're called.
It does. That's true.
Automatons. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does.
Those guys.
Those guys. Well, Frank, until next time.
Cheers.